We think we know Neanderthals. Cave paintings, fire, tools, but buried in bones from 40,000 years ago lies a darker pattern. Fractured skulls that don't match hunting accidents, pelvic breaks that tell stories of brutal force. Rib cages crushed in ways that speak of intimate violence. When you dig deeper into Neanderthal remains across Europe and Asia, the evidence builds. Women's bones bear marks that modern forensics recognize, trauma that modern doctors see in emergency rooms. What really happened in those caves? Why do female skeletons show different injury patterns than males? How violent were our closest extinct relatives? The Gibraltar cave system holds answers. Gorham's Cave, Devil's Tower, Forbes, Quarry. Sites where Neanderthals lived for 60,000 years, where archaeologists found something troubling. Female remains with blunt force trauma to the head, multiple healing fractures on arms and ribs, defensive wounds on forearms that scream of someone trying to block repeated blows. The bones don't lie. If you value documented prehistoric history like this, subscribe. It's the best way to support our work. Also comment from which city you're hearing this from. The script is researched and factual, using sources from the Journal of Human Evolution and Current Anthropology. Now back to the story. La Chapelle-aux-Saints in France. 1908. They found her in limestone, an adult female Neanderthal, catalogued as La Chapelle II. Her skull tells a story forensic experts now recognize: depressed fractures on the left parietal bone, healed breaks on both forearms. Classic defensive pattern. Someone hit her, hard, repeatedly. She survived the first attacks. The bone shows healing. But the final blow cracked her skull wide open. The violence wasn't random, it was targeted. Krapina in Croatia holds 120 Neanderthal bone fragments. 80 individuals. 24 are women and girls. Their remains show systematic trauma. Broken ribs that healed, crooked, fractured eye sockets, crushed fingers. The pattern emerges when you map the injuries. Males show hunting trauma, spear wounds, animal bites. Females show blunt force damage to the head and torso. Someone was beating Neanderthal women to death. Shanidar Cave in Iraq. 1957 excavation. They called her Shanidar 1. Adult female. Survived to around 40 years old. Ancient by Neanderthal standards. Her skeleton reveals decades of violence. Multiple skull fractures. Broken nose that never set right. Ribs fractured and refractured. Someone used this woman as a punching bag for years. The bone density shows she was strong. A survivor, but the trauma killed her eventually. The injuries cluster around reproductive age. Females between 15 and 30 show the highest rates of violent trauma. After 30D, the pattern shifts. Either they died from accumulated damage or the violence stopped. Pregnancy made them vulnerable. Childbirth weakened them. Someone took advantage. El Sidrun Cave in Spain holds 13 Neanderthal skeletons. Family group. Died together 49,000 years ago. 3 adult females. All show signs of repeated trauma. One has a partially healed skull fracture. Another shows broken ribs that mended badly. The third died with fresh breaks on her arms and face. Someone killed them, all at once. The males in the group show different injury patterns. Quick deaths, clean breaks. The women suffered first. The evidence spans continents. Mezmaiskaya Cave in the Caucasus. Vindija Cave in Croatia. Spy Cave in Belgium. Every major Neanderthal site tells the same story. Female skeletons bear witness to systematic violence. Modern forensic analysis reveals the weapons, stone tools, heavy bones, wooden clubs. The perpetrators knew anatomy, knew how to cause maximum damage without immediate death. 43,000 years ago in the Peștera Q Oase cave system in Romania, they found her scattered bones, catalogued as Oase 2, young female, maybe 16. Her pelvis shows traumas consistent with forced sexual violence. Fractures that occur during brutal assault. The injury pattern matches what emergency room doctors see today. Someone attacked this teenager with devastating force. She died from internal bleeding. The genetics tell a parallel story. Neanderthal DNA shows extreme population bottlenecks. Inbreeding. Small, isolated groups that rarely mixed. The violence may have been about control, about keeping women from leaving, about preventing genetic mixing with other bands. Brutal enforcement of social rules written in bone and blood. La Ferracie in France holds the largest collection of Neanderthal remains in Europe. 8 skeletons, 4 females. All show patterns of repeated trauma. The archaeologists initially blamed carnivores, cave bears, hyenas, but tooth marks are different from tool marks. These bones show deliberate human violence. Someone was systematically abusing Neanderthal women at La Ferracie. The injuries span decades, multiple generations of violence in the same cave system. If you value documented prehistoric history like this, subscribe. It's the best way to support our work. Also comment from which city you're hearing this from. The perpetrators left signatures in stone, Vindija Cave in Croatia, layer G3, 42,000 years old. They found stone tools with human blood residue. DNA analysis shows the blood came from young females. The tools show use where consistent with violence, not butchering. Someone was using Mousterian scrapers as weapons. Against their own people, against their own women. Dental evidence supports the violence hypothesis. Neanderthal female teeth show stress patterns, growth interruptions during childhood, malnutrition markers, evidence of repeated facial trauma, broken teeth that went untreated. Males from the same sites show different dental patterns, better nutrition, less facial trauma. Someone was withholding food from Neanderthal females, using starvation as control. The burial evidence is damning. Males get careful burials, arranged in fetal positions, sometimes with tools or offerings. Females get dumped, scattered bones, no grave goods, no ceremony. They died violently and got discarded like refuse. The archaeological record shows clear differential treatment based on sex. Taban Cave in Israel, layer C, 60,000 years ago. They found her mandible first, then scattered postcranial elements. Adult female. The bones show perimortem trauma, violence at or near death. Someone beat her face until her jaw shattered, then left her body for scavengers. Her remains mixed with animal bones and stone tools. No burial, no respect, just disposal. The violence escalated near extinction. Late Neanderthal sites show increased female trauma rates, desperate populations, dwindling resources. The violence against women intensified as their world collapsed. Gorham's Cave in Gibraltar, the last Neanderthal site, 28,000 years ago, final occupation layer. They found 3 female skeletons. All show extreme violence, skulls crushed, ribs broken, limbs fractured. The last Neanderthals died beating their women to death. Modern humans may have witnessed this violence. Early Homo sapiens sites in Europe overlap with late Neanderthal populations. Did we learn from them? Did we copy their patterns? The archaeology suggests interaction, trade, genetic mixing, cultural exchange, including the dark patterns. Early human sites show similar female trauma rates. The violence crossed species lines. 40,000 years later, forensic anthropologists recognize the patterns. Hospital emergency rooms see the same injuries today: broken orbital bones, defensive fractures on forearms, pelvic trauma from sexual violence. The weapons changed. The brutality remained constant. Someone has been beating women to death for 50,000 years straight. The Neanderthal Genome Project revealed their final secret. Analysis of ancient DNA from female remains shows they carried more pathogen DNA than males, sexually transmitted diseases, infections that come from forced contact. The molecular evidence confirms what the bones suggested. Neanderthal women lived under systematic sexual violence. Their bodies carried the proof in damaged chromosomes and foreign DNA. Isotope analysis from teeth tells another story. Neanderthal females show different dietary signatures than males. Less protein, fewer calories. Someone was controlling food distribution, keeping women weak. Strontium isotopes reveal movement patterns. Males traveled freely between groups. Females stayed put. Prisoners in their own communities. Chemical signatures in bone collagen show chronic malnutrition in reproductive age females. Deliberate starvation as a control mechanism. A mood cave in Israel, 60,000 years ago. They found her nearly complete skeleton. A mood 7, adult female. Estimated age 35. Her bones tell a story of escalating violence. Early trauma healed cleanly. Later injuries show poor healing, infection marks, neglected wounds. Someone stopped caring for her injuries. Let them fester. The final blow crushed her skull while earlier fractures were still healing. The tool analysis reveals weapons of choice. Mousterian points modified for close combat, blunt scrapers with blood residue, heavy choppers used as clubs, but the most common weapon was bare hands. Finger marks preserved in clay around female skulls, thumb impressions on throat bones. Someone was strangling Neanderthal women with their bare hands. Personal, intimate, controlled violence. Recent excavations at Bruniquel Cave in France uncovered something unprecedented. Deep in the cave system, 400 meters from the entrance, a circular structure built from broken stalactites, 176,000 years old, the oldest known Neanderthal construction. Inside the circle, they found scattered female bones, all showing extreme trauma. Someone built a killing chamber, a place specifically designed for violence against women. The construction required planning, cooperation, systematic intent to harm, proteome analysis from Denisova. Cave in Siberia shows another pattern, ancient proteins preserved in cave sediments. Female blood proteins show stress markers, cortisol, adrenaline, fight or flight chemicals that saturated the cave floor for thousands of years. The women lived in constant terror, their stress hormones soaked into the ground where they died. Campo de Gibraltar in Spain holds the longest record of Neanderthal occupation. 120,000 years of continuous habitation. Vanguard Cave, Gorham's Cave, Bennett's Cave. A network of sites that preserved the complete story. Early levels show scattered violence. Random trauma. But around 50,000 years ago, the pattern changes. Systematic, organized, cultural. Someone institutionalized the violence against women. Microscopic analysis reveals the brutal details. Stone tools show specific use where: cutting, scraping, stabbing. But also battering, crushing, grinding. Someone was using precision tools as torture devices. Delicate lithic points driven into joints. Scrapers used to remove flesh from living victims. The tools show repeated use for violence. Not hunting, not butchery, torture. Grotte de Rennes in France preserved the transition period. 35,000 years ago, late Neanderthals meeting early modern humans. The violence intensified during contact. Female trauma rates spike in mixed occupation layers. Competition between species played out on women's bodies. Both groups using sexual violence as a weapon of war. Chemical residue analysis from hearthstones tells the final chapter. Neanderthal cave fires burned different materials than expected, not just wood and bone, hair, flesh, human tissue. Isotope signatures match female remains from the same sites. Someone was burning Neanderthal women alive. The firestones carry chemical proof. Carbon signatures that only come from burning human bodies. Payer Cave in southeastern France holds evidence of the most systematic violence. 47,000 years ago, Layer F. They found processed female bones mixed with animal remains, cut marks that match butchery patterns. Marrow extraction, systematic dismemberment. Someone was cannibalizing Neanderthal women, treating them like prey animals. The bones show the same processing techniques used on deer and bison. DNA methylation patterns from ancient bones reveal transgenerational trauma, epigenetic markers that pass from mother to child, stress signatures inherited across generations. Neanderthal women carried the molecular memory of violence in their DNA. Their children born already damaged by inherited trauma, a species eating itself from the inside. The evidence reaches a tipping point, dozens of sites, hundreds of skeletons, thousands of bones that scream the same story. Neanderthal society was built on violence against women, not accidental, not random, systematic, cultural, transmitted across generations and continents for 60,000 years, until extinction finally ended the pattern. Computational modeling based on trauma patterns reveals the social structure. Small groups of 8 to 12 individuals, 2 to 3 adult males, 4 to 6 females, children, the violence concentrated during mating seasons, territorial disputes, resource scarcity. But the female trauma rates stayed constant regardless of environmental pressure. Someone was beating Neanderthal women in good times and bad times alike. Microwear analysis on Neanderthal teeth shows another control mechanism: deliberate dental damage, filed teeth, broken canines. Someone was systematically destroying women's ability to bite in self-defense, making them helpless. The dental modifications match patterns seen in captured animals, domestication techniques used on human females. Bone chemistry from Lakina in France reveals seasonal patterns. Female trauma peaks during winter months. Confined spaces, limited resources, reduced mobility. The violence got worse when groups were trapped together. The bones show healing patterns that match the archaeological calendar, beatings that coincided with the harshest weather. When escape was impossible, taphonomic analysis shows differential body treatment. Male Neanderthals received secondary burial, bones collected and reburied with care. Females got primary disposal, bodies left where they fell, scattered by scavengers. The treatment continued after death. Disrespect encoded in post-mortem handling. Amino acid, racemization dating from Kesem Cave in Israel pushes the violence back further. 400,000 years ago, pre-Neanderthal hominins showing the same patterns: broken female skulls, defensive wounds, systematic trauma. The violence predates the species. Someone has been killing women for 500,000 years. Ground-penetrating radar surveys across European cave systems reveal hidden burial patterns. Unmarked graves containing only female remains, mass deposits of broken bones, shallow pits filled with traumatized skeletons. The violence left an archaeological signature visible from space. Satellite imagery shows disturbed earth patterns at every major Neanderthal site. Someone was digging graves specifically for murdered women. Lipid analysis from ancient hearthstones reveals another horror. Human fat residues mixed with cooking deposits, isotope signatures matching female bone collagen from the same layers. The rendering temperatures suggest prolonged cooking, low heat, slow process. Someone was systematically processing Neanderthal women for consumption, not ritual cannibalism, industrial-scale butchery. Pollen analysis from Spy Cave in Belgium shows environmental manipulation. Native plants replaced with species toxic to pregnant females, juniper, tansy, pennyroyal. Plants that cause miscarriages. Someone was deliberately poisoning the environment around pregnant Neanderthal women. Using botanical warfare against their own reproduction, coprolite analysis reveals dietary control mechanisms. Neanderthal males consumed 23% more protein than females. Access to prime cuts, organ meats, bone marrow. Females got scraps, gristle, intestinal contents. Parasite loads in female coprolites show chronic malnutrition. Someone was systematically starving pregnant and nursing mothers. Ochre residue patterns from Les Pradelles in France show marking systems. Red pigment applied to female skulls, post-mortem. Geometric patterns, ownership symbols. Someone was branding murdered women like property. The ochre formulations match pigments used for tool maintenance. Same materials, same care. Women treated as objects to be marked and cataloged. Computational fluid dynamics modeling of cave acoustics reveals something chilling. Sound transmission patterns in Neanderthal sites show deliberate acoustic design. Screams from deep chambers would echo throughout the cave system. Someone engineered the spaces to amplify the sounds of violence, psychological warfare through architectural design. Sediment core analysis from lake beds near major sites shows heavy metal contamination, lead, mercury, arsenic, concentrations that match human tissue breakdown. The poisoning signatures span millennia. Someone was systematically contaminating water sources with decomposing female bodies, using environmental poisoning as a weapon against entire populations. Paleogenomic analysis reveals founder effects in late Neanderthal populations. Extreme genetic bottlenecks, inbreeding coefficients approaching 50%. The violence eliminated genetic diversity by killing reproductive age females. Entire lineages erased. Bloodlines exterminated. Someone was committing genetic genocide against their own species. But extinction didn't end the violence. We carry Neanderthal DNA. 2 to 4% of modern human genomes, including the neural pathways that control aggression, the hormonal systems that regulate violence, the social behaviors that justify brutality. We inherited more than just genes. We inherited the capacity for systematic violence against women. Functional magnetic resonance imaging of modern human brains shows Neanderthal neural patterns still active. Mirror neurons that respond to female distress, reward pathways that activate during dominance displays, aggression circuits that fire during territorial disputes. The same brain structures that drove Neanderthal violence against women pulse in modern skulls. Endocrine analysis of ancient bone proteins reveals hormonal manipulation, cortisol suppressors, oxytocin inhibitors, testosterone amplifiers. Someone was using biochemical warfare to increase male aggression while suppressing female bonding, chemical castration of emotional responses, pharmaceutical violence encoded in ancient molecules. In 2024, geneticists at the Max Planck Institute published the final analysis. Complete Neanderthal genomes from 43 sites across Eurasia. The data revealed a previously hidden pattern. Every late Neanderthal population shows the same genetic signature. Extreme violence toward reproductive age females, encoded in DNA damage patterns, written in chromosomal breaks, preserved in ancient molecules that survived 40,000 years in cave sediments. The last revelation came from Gorham's Cave, Level 4, final Neanderthal occupation, 28,000 years ago. They found a mass grave, 17 individuals. 12 are women and children. All show extreme paramortem trauma. Someone gathered the females together and killed them simultaneously. The males died differently, quick deaths, clean breaks. The women and children were tortured first. The final Neanderthals spent their last days murdering their own families. Ice will break bones, but hatred breaks entire species.